Everybody. This is a class 4. We're going to make really cute earrings today. They are called, I call them the blue point earrings. The ones I'm holding up now are a lavender version. And they're really fun to make. We're going to go through step by step how to do it. They are made with the size 11 John Bead Czech glass seed beads. And the stitch that I'm using to make these today is a herringbone stitch. And so as you heard in the beginning, this is a recorded class. So it will be available as a replay. And I'm going to go through every step as slow as I can. And I'm going to walk through the more challenging steps twice. So everybody will have a chance to see how they're made. And I'll provide some tips and tricks along the way and some variations you can try. And but my recommendation is to watch and then try to make a pair while watching the replay where you can pause it, because at some points I have built ahead so that we can get it all into a 1-hour class. So again, it's recorded and it'll be available on michaels.com/classes. And so the way I'm going to structure class today is all of the samples you've seen were made with size 11s. So that's the small seed beads, the little tubes, the little tiny beads. I'm going to work my demo with size 8. And that'll have the benefit of being able to be really easy to see on the camera. And I also found that it looks really cute. So you might end up liking it with size 8s. It can be worked with any size bead. You could also try it with the size 10s. So I'm going to go ahead and switch my camera so you guys can get a detailed view. And I'm going to try to close this window here. There we go. Some light coming into focus. All right. So these are the earrings up close. These were made with size 11 seed beads. I chose 3 colors. The handout that you'll have for this class has a pattern in it. And I'm gonna go through following the pattern and show some tips and tricks for keeping track of where you are in the pattern while you build the design. And you can choose any 3 colors you like. I was just kind of playing earlier today and thought for going into February, here's a really neat palette that I just need to see. So I'll be creating these and posting them because I think this is a neat colorway. This is the red, silver lined red, and the silver lined fuchsia. So I can just see that would have a real pop to it. But suggestion for beginners. So if you've never done herringbone stitch, or herringbone stitch is a new thing, and this pattern is an odd count. So there's an odd count turn that gives us the ability to have a center point. If that is stressing you out or taking the joy out of this project in any way, another suggestion I have would be to add, and I'll show you where, to add an additional laddered stack. And you can build it in even count and just color block it. And that would also be very beautiful. So as we're going through it, I'll talk to that a little bit. I'm still gonna work through the pattern as it is here, but there are definitely some variations that will make it more beginner. And I'd like to also just double check my focus here. It's looking a little bit different than, okay, yeah, seems good. Okay. All right, so here's the 11s. And then just to show you, here's the 8s, some of the in-process samples that I'm going to use today. So pretty big size difference, but the cool thing is not a really big difference in the weight. So as an earring, you don't want it to be too heavy, but I found that this actually works out pretty nicely. It's not super heavy and it's a lot more statement. So lots of alternatives, lots of ways you can spin this design. And so I'm going to go ahead and show you materials now. I showed you the seed beads. Here's the 8s I'm going to use. We're going to go with our class colors. We're using the .006 Wildfire. And yes, we're using that with the 11s on my samples. I did use that. And so usually with a fringe design, you would see somebody use a looser, more flowy thread. With this one, notice how I'm holding it up and it doesn't flop. The strands don't hang like loosely. That was a design goal. So I wanted it to hold its fan shape that shows off that kind of like bow looking. So that's why I went with the Wildfire, and the result it achieved, and I liked it. So that's what I used in here, and that's what I'm going to be using for our demo. Scissors, regular Recollections precision scissors for cutting the thread. Working with the 11s. So size 12 beading needle to work with the 11s recommended, because we're going to make a few passes through, especially if you're at home working with these tiny beads. The 12 will help out. For the 8s, you could use a 10. And then at the end, we're going to need some chain nose pliers and ear wires, and just throw in an ear wire on the top of the design. And that's it. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to move these samples out of the way for the moment. We're going to use those as we go. So for thread, if you're working with size 11s, 36 inches is going to be plenty of thread. If you are working this design with 8s, give yourself some more length, because it'll use more thread than the 11 design. So I would say add 15 inches or so. I am also going to show you how to add thread, because in a fringe design that happens sometimes, and you may want to know how to do it in case you want to make your fringe longer. So I'm going to show adding thread as well. And I'm going to use a pair of chain nose pliers to flatten the Wildfire thread. And that makes it easier to get it through a needle. And so here's my needle. I'm going to thread that. Okay. So colors, you can use any colors you like. Starting with my turquoise. And in the handout, it'll show you to start by picking up 4 beads and leaving about a 7 to 10 inch tail or so. All you'll need that tail for is just to weave in. So just leave it long enough that it's comfortable to weave in later. And what we're going to do here is we're going to ladder stitch. And we're going to ladder stitch 9 stacks of 2. And when I say stacks of 2, I mean that each of these 2 is going to be a stack. And so to get there, go through just those first 2. So we strung 4. And don't worry, I will go through this 2 times. So we'll make sure and catch it for everybody. There we go. My thread got caught on my keyboard. Oops. So pulling that through. And it's going to form a box shape, or it should eventually form a box shape here. There we go. And once you have that little box shape, come back up through those second 2 beads. I'm going to close my keyboard tray really quick so my thread won't catch on it. There we go. All right. And it might be a little loose at first, but don't worry about that too much, because we're going to end up going back through this entire laddered segment when we add the first row of herringbone stitch. So that's just fine for a square if that's what you're getting. And then you want to pick up 2 more of your beads. And this first set of 9 stacks of 2 is all in one color in our pattern. So you don't have to worry about patterning just yet. We're just ladder stitching those stacks. So I picked up 2, I went back through the middle set there, and I'm going to turn and come back down through these top ones here. And pulling tight. Let's see what I got. 3. Okay, so we're going to keep going till I have 9. So picking up 2 more. And each time you're going in the opposite way that your working thread is exiting. And if it helps to hold your work like this, that's great. And holding it on the mat is great too. Coming back up. So I kind of have a way of remembering where I am. Is you pick up 2 and you're back through the last 2 that are there. There we go. And then come down through those 2 that you just added. And feel free to shout if you have a question about this step. I know laddering it's kind of one of those, it's this first step for so many different stitches that it might be one everybody already knows and I'm going over it a little too much or not enough. So just let me know. And I'm going to move. I have a bunch of seed beads next to me that my thread's catching on. I'm just going to move them really quick. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay. Coming down through. I picked up 2. Coming down. And turning and coming back up through those last ones. And something else that I'm doing while I'm working, you've probably seen me doing this a couple times, is I'm pulling on that thread at the point where it's exiting before I keep going with this side. It's just a way of making it a little bit tighter. 2 more. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I need 3 more. Okay. There's that. And 1 more after this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you would like to do an even count design, you can stop here at 8 or go to 10. So, and the reason I brought that up is this is going to be odd count. And so if Herringbone Stitch is new to you, and the odd count turn that we're about to show is stressful in any way, just try building it as even count first. Get the hang of herringbone and then try the odd count. But if you're experienced with herringbone and you'd like to learn a new trick here, I'm about to show a way you can do odd count turns with the herringbone stitch. So here's my last laddered stitch of 9 stacks of 2. Just step 1. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right. So now I'm going to get the pattern. And the way the pattern is written in here, I kind of, I actually sketched it out step by step in the handout. But if you were following like, you know, a pattern you got in a book or something, you'll often see them like this, sketched out like that. And my trick for following patterns is, well, there's 2 ways. You can use a Post-it, or I have these really heavy coasters. They weigh a lot, so they don't slide away. And I use them to mark my spots. So there, that would be, you can see this here, but there's my 2 ladder stitches right there. I marked my spot. And then I would just move it down. And I see here row 3 needs to start with my new color and then go to this former color until the very last stitch where I add the new color 1 more time. So that's what I'm doing here off camera, is I'm following my pattern with my coaster. And that's my trick for keeping my place. Post-it will work great too. Or like a business card, or anything really, anything will work. And so I'm going to bring in a new color. I'm going to bring in a bright yellow. And according to my pattern here, I need to pick up one of my new colors and one of my old colors. And turn and go through the second stack that you have here. So we exited from this side. I'm going down through this side. All right. So there's that. And now, according to my pattern, I need to keep filling in the same color all the way till I get to here. So that's what I'm going to do. So turn and go through these. So I'm exiting the next one. And this is just regular herringbone stitch so far. We're picking up 2 beads and going down through the next column. Push these out of the way a little bit. Okay. And then turn to come up through the next ones. I picked up 2 more, still staying with that same color because that's what the pattern's calling for. And so I push down on the work while I'm stringing it through. I call that a tension aid. It helps me be able to pull tight without the work coming apart while I'm pulling it. So that's a little trick to try if you're working it on the mat. If you're pinching it and holding it, it's the same thing. You're just kind of, I'll show that once. Picking up 2. Coming down to the next set. And I sometimes help them. In Herringbone Stitch, they're going to sit, the beads are going to sit like this. And I'm helping them do that. All right, so odd count turns. We are there. We're there in odd count turns in Herringbone Stitch. Normally, you'd come up through this stack and you'd pick up 2, and there'd be another one over here for you to go down into. But because we want to have a center point, so we can do our pattern, we have to find a way to get the bead here that we need, which is going to be, we need that bead, that color according to the pattern. So starting with that, I'm just turning, coming up through here, picking up that new bead. It helps to picture it this way when you're following a pattern, because there's a point where you're going to have to add the first color of the next row in order to go back. So now back to my pattern. I know my next color is going to be a yellow again from here. So I'll pick up another yellow, but now I'm going to bring that yellow down, and it's going to sit on top of this one. So here's the end of my last row and the first bead of my next row. But I need to get to where I'm exiting from here, right? I need to be exiting from this bead. So to do that, skip this bead, the one we just added, and just go down through this one. And then this is a time when it really does help to do this. What I'm doing with my finger is just holding it steady. And this will look a little bit funny at first. It's just kind of hanging out there. Don't worry about it, because when we come back, we're going to connect it. But for now, it's just going to be kind of sitting on top of the bead below it. And then just going back to regular herringbone stitch now, I come up through the next column. And so something to note here is row 1. I built it going through my whole stack, but the subsequent rows will just pick up the row before it. So you'll be going through just one bead. Hopefully that makes sense there, but we don't need to go through all of them, just that last one we added. And so back to my pattern, I'm going to need another yellow here, and then the main color. So I'm picking them up in the order of the way so if the pattern has, yellow, yellow, turquoise, you pick up yellow, then turquoise, and go down. Come back up through the next column. That's here. There it goes. And 2 turquoises. Or color A. I should say color A. That's what the pattern will tell you. There you go. Come up to the next one. It's super quiet out there. I don't know if anyone has any questions, but feel free if you do. And I'm thinking after a couple more rows here, I'll start over. If we, unless you guys think that we're good on that. Okay, so I need to have 2 of my new color here according to my pattern. Again, here's the pattern. I'm building this row. So I want to build, oh, sorry, I'm not completely there. Okay, so I want to build 1, 2. I just built these 5, and now I'm building these 2. And I'm on my even count side. So coming up through here, I'm going to have enough beads in all the right places to build a normal column. So with this odd count, I'm only going to need to do the odd count turn on this side, not on this side. On this side, it's regular herringbone stitch turn. And so to make the turn here, so when we were laddering before, we were down here and all we did was we just turned and came back out. But now we're going to need to get through to where we're exiting from this bead. I like to just step up like this. Some people like to weave around to get here. You'll see some designs, really pretty designs, where they put a tiny seed bead on the thread here to kind of decorate the edge as they're stepping up. On this design, especially with the 11s, you can see my thread here exiting from the side points. It doesn't detract from your design. It speeds it up exponentially to do it this way. It also gives it flow. So if you're having like a bracelet design that you want to move a little bit, doing your step up and herringbone stitch this way will give you more movement than if you did the thing where some people weave around or pick up a thread bridge and use that as a way to get to exiting here. If anyone has any questions about that, I can get more detail going there, but just going on for the next part of the pattern shows that we have 3 yellow. So I'm going to pick up 2 here, 2 yellows. And coming up for the next one. 1 more yellow and then back to the main color. So my plan right now is to get to the end of this row, show you the odd count turn 1 more time. And then I'm going to be checking in to see if anyone wants me to start over. So be ready in the chat room if that's something you'd like me to do. Building the pattern says to have 3 of the main color in the center. So I'm adding 1, 2, 3 there. See, there's 1, 2, 3. Come up. And this row needs to have yellow, yellow, yellow. Okay. So now we're at that odd count turn again. Remember we left that bead hanging? We just left it sitting there on top of the other one by doing that kind of thing where we turned and added it. I'm going to go up through it now and watch what it does. It turns, it goes right where it's supposed to be. And I need to do that again. And so the next row above it is also yellow. So here's me finishing that row with that last yellow bead. And then starting the next row with a new yellow. And another way to remember it, well, specifically for this pattern, is you should have 5 of your color B beads. In my case, it's yellow. So I know I've added my last one, I've got 5, a total of 5. Here's the turn again. Moving that up. Coming down through the one we added first. Helping it sit where I need it to go. And I'm gonna hold it. And see, it's just gonna sit like that. This technique's really versatile because now you can do any pattern you want, an odd count pattern, in like a herringbone stitch bracelet, and anything like that. And so there's that. Okay, so from here I could build the rest, switch to I have a sample that's a little further along, or we could start that ladder 1 more time. I believe we could probably do that. Or I can fast forward to where the color changes again.
Danielle, it's Carmi.
Hey, Carmi.
I think it would be great if you, because obviously this is recorded and people can watch it again. I think you should continue with where you start the next step, because you've got one that's a little bit fast forwarded.
Yeah, this one is, yeah, if everybody's good with that, I'm happy to do that. I've got, and it gives me time to show you the fringe part more. So
I think we should save the time for that.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. And then if anybody has questions about this, of course, just, you can find me in Messenger, or you can watch the replay. And sometimes you'll find on the replay, it'll click because you can pause it and try it. And you're like, oh yeah, now I see. So give the replay a try if you're struggling with this. And so from here, what we would have done here is to build the rest of this row per the pattern. And so over here with the pattern, I'm sliding my coaster down, watching row by row. And so here's what it looks like when you've got those next rows built. And on this one, I got to the end where I've got my odd count turn and I've got to start a new color. So that's where I'm going to switch to. And so moving this one over. It looks like I've already got a needle on this one, so great. All right, so the pattern has me ending this with, remember we have 5 of the color beads on the side. There's the last bead of that row. Now I need a new color. So I'm getting out red now. It's cool cinnabar red. It's really gorgeous. Woo, I'm spelling it. Fix that really quick. Okay, so I'm picking up just one. Slide it down. And then just go through that yellow we added. And another trick I do with these odd count turns is I kind of hover. I hover over the column next to it, the space in between them. This stabilizes the thread a little bit. And see, so that bead's just going to hang out there. We'll keep going. And so this is that tail thread from the beginning, and it's just getting in the way. I'm just going to pull that out of the way there. There we go. Okay, and so the pattern says one color C, and then we're back to B for the rest of the row till we get to the end, where we add one more color C. There's that. And you can see with herringbone stitch, it's all about tension. The actual stitch is meditatively easy, and it's actually a very peaceful stitch. I like doing it as a way of just calming down a little bit if I'm having a rough day. This is the stitch I always go to. I don't know why, but for some reason it's calming, and it's a way to keep your hands busy. You don't have to do a pattern. Patterns can be stressful sometimes, I feel like. So if you want to just do color blocking is very, very cool. And so now I'm at one of my color B, and I need a new one, a color C. And this is just the even count side. And just go ahead and help it if it doesn't sit, you know, exactly as you'd like it to. And then we're going to come up through that bead. Made that turn. And so that's how it's made, and you would keep going until you have 5 of the color B's and 5 of the color C's. And when you get there, so this is the even count side, This is the odd count side. You will have that loose odd count. Sorry, you'll have that loose odd count bead hanging out over there. So you'll keep building each row until you'll have 5 color B's, 5 color C's. Does anyone have any questions about that pattern following, or I can show the pattern again. Actually, I should show you guys where we're at. So I find that. So what we did is we built right up to the point where the color changed here, and then now we're showing you where it changed next. And one of the ways to, I think with patterns in general, just following along with them, is really just to focus row by row and try not to worry about how it looks as a whole picture until, you know, you get to a point where something looks out of place. Maybe it'll jump out at you, but otherwise, just taking it one row at a time is kind of my recommendation. And I do have to pull things out sometimes and start over if I've made an error. Hopefully always will discover that early, but that's the only thing about patterning I would caution against, is to sort of notice when something looks a lot out of place. And in a pattern like this, it will be very noticeable really quick. So let's see. I think I'll do one more row like this, just so you guys can see that odd count turn one more time. I feel like that would be a good idea. And after that, I'll show you how to do the fringe. And then there's the finishing on the top, which is really cute. So I'm setting that one aside for now. We're going to go back and do the rest of the pattern for this row. So starting with 2 color C, get that on there. And come up through this one, the next one. This is one more color C and a color B. Kind of an intuitive pattern. Each row is tapering down by 2. The color in the center will taper down by 2 beads. So I know this one's going to have those 3. Oops, my thread got caught there. Coming up. Two more here of color C. And then there's that bead that was left in the last odd count turn, going through that one. And I know the next 2, here's the rest of that row. And here's the first one of the next row. Here's that turn, going back down. And don't worry if it's just wonky hanging out there, it will get picked up when you come back through for the last pass. So fast forwarding for 3 rows. 3 rows later, you'll have this. And it's time to start the fringe. So fringe patterns. The way the fringe pattern is written in this document is this is the last row, and it's a row of solid red. Put this next to it. So our, oops, solid row of red here. It's that one. It's the one we're going to be making our turns in. We're going to make turns in that last row as we add our fringe. The fringe pattern starts here. And when I'm building my fringe patterns, I'll take another little card or sheet or just anything, like even like just an eraser, and just use it to guide yourself. So I'll know I need 5 color C, 5 color B, and 2 color A, and move it over. And you can see the way this pattern works. It stays with 5 in the center for that color. But for every one you move over, you add 1 more up here. Sorry, take 1 away from up here and add 1 more down here. I'm just going to follow it like this, line by line, moving my guide over. So I'm hoping that helps somebody with patterning, because that's the trick that these are actually the tools I use when I'm building my own. I like it because this is really heavy and it stays put. So I'm going to start there, and that's what I'm doing off camera here. I'm moving my eraser, and you can use a business card, coaster, Post-it, anything that you've got handy will work great. Okay. And so the first step here is showing me picking up 5 of these color C beads. So get 5 on there. And bring it up here. And then we'll get 5 more color B. And only 2 of the color A for this one. And now we're going to grab a size 6 seed bead. On these size 11s, that is a really pronounced change. From going from an 11 to a 6, it makes it look really cool. It's going to look less, less weight is being added here by the 6 because these are 8s. But if you're really loving making these with a size 8 bead and you want to try like a 4mm gemstone here, that will look really cool. And it will give you more weight at the end of the fringe. So size 6 bead, and then another color A. And that's how our pattern was written here. And in this case, I matched the color of the size 6 to my color B. So skip that last one and come back up through the fringe. And I'm not using one today. I'm using a regular needle, but at Michael's they have looming needles. And this is a short fringe design. These fringes aren't very long, but can you see the possibility of making a really long fringe? With using one of these is kind of, I call it like a bib because it's a good base for lots of different kinds of fringe designs, or even like a bracelet design where just you have some loose strands going. So thinking about that, a loom needle is really handy because you can get a lot of beads on it and come back up through a lot of beads without having to keep needling in and trying to get inside your fringe row, if that makes any sense. So I came down through the first bead. It's the one I was exiting. And I'm going to turn and exit from the next one. And so there's that. And one of the things about this pattern that I like is I'm looking at it, but because it's intuitive, I know I did 5 here, so I'm just going to do 4 now. I'm just going to add 4. And I kept the center color the same, so just 5 of those again. And then we had 2 here, add 1. 1, 2, and 3. Oops, I lost my 3. There it is. So there's the second one. The fringes are the same length in this pattern too, but you can just grab graph paper, make your own patterns. You know, everything is, there's so many ideas. When you start to work, you'll have lots of them. It's just really fun. So I picked up 1 more, color A, going up through all those beads again. And my needle is just long enough that I can make it right back up to that base row. And again, that base row, it's the last row we made in our herringbone bib. So I'm going to turn and go through here.
Hi, Danielle. I have a question that a lot of people might have is people would love to know, how tight are you pulling your thread when you're making fringe?
Oh, so variable. With this design, I'm pulling tighter than I normally would because I want to make it fan and flare. I want it to do this thing. Total stylized choice. If you were making this as a fringe design that you want it to be flowy, for starters, use a different thread and then pull less tightly. Something that I also do with really long strands of fringe. You know what? I'm going to show you guys really quick. I'm going to add another one on here and show you a long strand technique. So here's 3 and then 5 again. And there's 4 now. I need 4 of those. Okay. And then I'm going to pick up my 6 and my color A. And going back through all the beads here, if it will let me, there we go. Okay, back through my base row. Now hold the bottom. And back in July, we did a really long fringe earring class. And this was the trick that we did for that one. See, hold it. I'm pulling here and I'm pulling here. I'm pulling apart. Keep pulling. Perfect tension. And on a really long strand, that'll get your bubbles out. By bubbles, I mean places where your thread's puckering out of in between your seed beads. So that gets the bubbles out. So I hope that answered the question.
It definitely does. And obviously the other question would be then, if you did want to make it looser, what thread would you use? Would you use the Nymo?
Yes, yeah, the Nymo is great. Any size D thread would work great. And if you're using really tiny beads, you can even change up your thread size there, but I've always just used D and it's been great for me with size Ds and size 11 seed beads. So yeah, I'd trade that. And so with a fringe design, you would just keep going and adding fringe. I wanted to show you guys just really quick though, what happens when you run out of thread? And so I purposely did that here. I did that here on this one, but coincidentally, I've also done it on this one. So I'm going to show adding thread really quick, because that'll happen, especially on a long fringe. There's just no way you can work with, it'd be very unwieldy to try to work with that much thread. really long fringe designs require 2 reloads, typically 2 reloads. Like the ones we did in July, those were a double reload one. So new thread, using my same trick here with the chain nose. I'm gonna thread those on here. And so same trick that you guys have seen me do a lot. It's going to apply here that's the others. I always leave my old working thread in place and just set it aside. And with herringbone stitch, you can enter the work anywhere you'd like. And we're just going to weave around through a few rows until the tail stops moving. So here's my tail. And keep an eye on that for me. And I'm just going to weave in. Still moving, so I need to keep going. And it's okay to jump rows. What I mean by jumping rows is see how I've been just following my thread path through this one row. Go ahead and go up through a few if you want. Up through more of them. And I'm going to try to overlap my turn here. So I came down through this one. And now I'm going to come back up so I don't have 2 places that I've got thread crossing each other. I'm just using that same path. Check that out. So it just disappears really. You don't see it. Coming back, going down through a bunch. This truly is random. I'm just moving around until my tail stops moving. And I think I'm there. There we go. Okay. So I'm pulling pretty hard on this. This is not moving at all. That's where I added. So it's tight. So now all I got to do is travel. And I'm going to travel over here and meet my old thread. I'm just going to do that really quick. Go through there. And you can see, like, even on, even teaching a class like this stitch, I actually really like doing this stitch. It's so fun. And I can't really say why, but there's something soothing about it. Okay, now I'm in the same spot as where my old thread was. And what I'll probably do now is just weave this one in. There is no reason to keep building. If this was a bracelet, I would say build some more rows and then weave in so you don't get a bulk spot. On this one, you can't weave into fringe. So I'm gonna just go back and weave it in now. Sorry, blocking the light there. Okay, let's see. I'm traveling up currently, so I'm taking advantage of the weaving in to tighten up spots that I didn't feel were tight enough before in my herringbone. And keep going. Oop. Okay, so I want to show you guys the top really quick. So finishing my weaving in, I'm going to trim those off. And that's pretty good. Okay, scissors. Push down, pull up. Push down, pull up. And let's see, I'm gonna I don't think I can finish all the fringe today, but I'm gonna do one more. The 2. And then the 5. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm gonna add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A size 6 and one more color A. And that's all in that pattern. We were using our Post-it or a coaster to slide. I've memorized this pattern now because it's just kind of intuitive, and I'll show that trick again for tension. And pull that through and pull in both directions. There it goes. Okay, so normally we'd finish all the way to the end here. And we'd have a bunch of beautiful fringe built. And then your thread would be over here and you just weave straight up to the top. And so I'm going to do that now really quick. to get where I need to be. So right now I'm just traveling through the work. Getting to the other side here. I'm going to turn, and I'm going to come all the way up through the side. So pretending I added my last row of fringe. So when you're working with the 11s and you get to this spot, you'll be really glad you're using a size 12 needle. And what you'll find is that the ladder stitched beads that we added here at the top, so our first original stacks of 9, they're going to be really, really tight to get through. So a size 12 beading needle will help with that. But even then, we're looking at this being our 3rd pass through those beads. So this was my tail thread originally when we built the ladder stitch. I'm just pulling it out of the way. This is my current working thread. I want to show you building that pretty top embellished design at the top. So pick up 3 of your color A beads. You don't have to stick with color A, but that's just, I'm sticking with the pattern that's in the handout. So, and what that looks like is we're building a Picot. So start with 3. And you're not going to want to go through these again. So pretending these are 11s and pretending it, you know, that they're going to be as tight as they are. Go under that 2nd thread bridge. And then just come up through the 3rd bead that we added. And it's going to pop into a little Picot shape. And now pick up 2 color A and pick up the next thread bridge. And then come up. Okay, now we're at the center. And in the handout, it'll show that it's picking up 6 beads. So 3 for one side and then 3 for the other. So I've got these 3 and 3. And I'm going to skip the next 2 thread bridges. So I'm counting this one, skip it, and counting this one and skipping that one, and going down through the 3rd. Pull tight. Come up just through that last one. And you'll get a loop. And you'll want to pick up 2 more. And we're going to just kind of repeat what we did on the other side, go through that next thread bridge. Pull through, come up through that one. All right. 2 more, and then we are good. And I'll show you that one last little bell and whistle that I put on the top. It's a lot easier to see in the 8s, so this is going to look cool. So there's that one side. We want to add these little pops of color. So I'm going to pull in some yellow and make a turn and just go through that 1/8. 1 pop. And there's the 2nd one. Okay, so from here, I want to reinforce my loop. That's where my ear wire is going to hang. So we're going to turn, go down through this A. So just that one. Go under that thread bridge again. A good way to catch a thread bridge is just to stab your needle in between. Coming up, I'm flipping it over so I can see what I'm doing on the other side, but I'm just coming up through the A, and I'm going to continue through that whole round of little CDs there, and down through that last A on the other side. Again, I'm going to pick up the thread bridge that's under it by going through the center, the column there. It just makes it easier, especially with the 11s, to see what you're doing if you use the column. Coming up. And then one more bright yellow color here. I need one more bright yellow. tangle. Sorry, guys. Let's see. Actually, I think it was fine. I think my tangle was just the little tail getting in my way again. No, that one's okay. Oh no, I see why I have a tangle. Let me go back through there. Got it. Sorry, it was hanging up my bead there. So pick up that yellow again and go through the next one. And then down through. Sorry about that. I made a mistake on that last part. So we went around that loop and we picked up the thread bridge underneath that bead, came up through this bead, went through the next one, and then out of the A, went through the next, sorry, the color B, went through the next A, and then the next color B. And so that's the cute little top part of the earring, a little easier to see in the 8s. And what you'd want to do after that is get some ear wires. And I have an open pack over here, so that's my pretty pack. I'm choosing gold, pretty gold color. Just grab some chain nose pliers and open up. If you want to use a jump ring here, you can. On the designs that I did, I kind of just went straight to the ear wire because they're hanging in the right orientation, just like that. So I'm gonna put that on there in between the 3 and the 3 on the other side. And then close it up. And give it a little tighten down. And it should swing freely between your beads. It works even with the 8s. I was curious if that was gonna fit. Yeah, it looks great. And so that's the earring. I'm gonna switch cameras so I can show you guys the rest of February.
Hi, Danielle, it's Carmi.
Hey.
I want to let you know you've had some really lovely comments on the sidebar.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I think it's great that you use the 8/0 beads to demonstrate with, because they were definitely very clear, but I think a few people have realized maybe the 8/0 version is a fabulous pendant.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you should make the earrings in 11/0 and then make a matching 8/0 one for a pendant.
Yeah, that would actually be really great. You can see the size difference next to each other. I feel like that would also, this pops so much more with the 8s, I feel like, than it does with the 11s.
Yeah. So I think you've launched a pendant.
Yeah, I would love to see it. If you guys would please share when you create your pendants. I'd love to see it. And so I wanted to show you guys February. So we've got February coming. I'm excited about the February projects. I made a little board. This one is the first class. So what it is it's 2 versions. It's a dot stitch or a globe stitch. I've heard it called a couple different things, but it is a version where you can either have some space between or leave the space out and have them be connected. But I feel like it looks like even like a little braid. So, and I'll show you guys different closure styles. This is going to be a really fun class. We're going to do an adjustable button as well as just how to go straight to a toggle. Week after that is sliders. So these are slider stones that they have at Michael's, or I guess they're called charms. They're in the charm section. You'll find them on the charm wall. And I've put them on delicas. So we'll build a band of delicas and we'll slide those beads on there, those little slider beads. And then we'll stitch a securing row at the top. Then after that, for everybody who liked the right angle weave, thank you so much for sticking with me for that one. We're gonna do a rope version of right angle weave. I've heard this called lots of things, right angle weave rope, cubic right angle weave. It's really flexible, like super flexible. And then last but not least, there's gonna be a star flower. We're gonna revisit the earrings we did last October and make a necklace version. And there's going to be a bracelet because, you know, we need a whole set, right? So that's everything. So I hope so much that I'll see you guys for our first class in February. And this is the handout for that star one to see you can do different colors. So there's lots of exciting stuff coming up. And I want to say thank you for being here with me tonight, and please share your creations. All right. Have a good night, everyone.